What is up, my friends on the internet? Back at it with another video, and today, of course, we are working on the Trail 125. I am getting so close to done with this bike. There's only a few little things left. Today, I want to get the crash cage on. I got a big beefy crash cage that I showed you in the last video, but it got too hot, I got tired, so I didn't actually have the energy to install it that day. So I'm back at it. Today is the day we're gonna install that and get this bike a little bit more protection. After that, I think all we have left is suspension and wheels for it. So we're getting pretty close to it being done. It's already been on an epic trip. It's got a lot of miles on it already, but let's continue to build. Let's make some more progress so this thing can be done, because as we all know, projects are never done. But today we're gonna get a little bit closer to whatever I initially considered done. Let's get it.
Alright, so this is the crash bar. There should be two separate ones that bolt onto either side of the bike here, one on that side, one on the other side. The couple issues I am they're not really issues, they're just like concerns I have are, because I said couple, and that's how English works. I'm curious how the rails are going to interact with the skid plate here. Hopefully all that still bolts up cool. I don't fully understand how they're even installed there, so I need to figure that out, and I'm hoping that they don't interact with this carrier that I put on. I haven't seen anybody run these two parts in particular together, but I'm hoping it works. I'm gonna find out one way or another, I suppose, but it's nothing that a little modification can't fix, so if something doesn't fit, I'll just figure it out one way or the other. It may be that I need to run a different skid plate, it may be that I need to cut some things, it may be that I need to move because there's a wasp of some sort right there. I don't know what that is, but first step is cutting this thing open, so I'm gonna do that now. So I got accidentally lucky. The crash bars that I bought are actually the same exact brand as the center carrier I bought, so I feel pretty good about them working together. I just bought these two parts from two different websites, one in Japan, one in Thailand, so the fact that I didn't even pay attention and accidentally bought two things that were the same brand is really good luck. They came with a bag of hardware, seems pretty generic, but hopefully it's everything I need. I feel pretty good about it. The center carrier was pretty straightforward and easy, so I imagine these will be too. Looking at it, looks like there's a spot for it to slide in there, a spot for it to slide in there, and then 3 spots that are going to require hardware. So I think these just press into the top here. I don't think they're actually attached. I think you slide them in, and then this being bolted in makes them stay. It looks like there's going to be 3 spots down in there somewhere that will bolt up on each side. So first things first, I think I need to get this one unhooked from the skid plate, and then hopefully it just slides straight out that way. It doesn't seem to be moving, so we'll see. I really don't want to take this thing apart because I don't fully understand how it works, but if I have to, I have to. Let's get it. Okay, so 4 different screws for the skid plate. There's one there, there's one down there, and then the same on the opposite side. You're gonna go ahead and pull those. Let's get the skid plate out the way and go from there. Those are out. Skid plate is off, and just like that, it revealed the hardware that I need to remove. There's a screw there. I don't see more. There's one over there, and then it looks like 1, 2 on the other side, and this thing isn't wobbling around yet, so I'm gonna loosen those out and see if I can just slide it out from up there. Hopefully I can, but we'll see. The starter is to get those out of there, and then hopefully it just wiggles right off. The skid plate's pretty nice. You get those 4 screws off, and then there's little tabs that it just slides into the bike. But yeah, pretty nice, all worked in. It does look like the tabs to hold the skid plate are attached to this rail. So when you take this rail, or when you take these rails off, I think you are going to lose your skid plate mounts. At least, actually, all of them. All of the skid plate mounts are in these bars. So RIP the stock skid plate. That's a whole new issue, but that's fine. I'm probably going to want to run an aftermarket one anyway, so just be mindful of that. You cannot run the stock skid plate if you remove these bars. So pros and cons, pros and cons. So it's much easier than I thought. You got these 12 millimeters here. Once you loosen that out right there, this whole thing is loose, and it seems like it's just going to wiggle out. I only have one hand, but it is moving, like it's just going to come out. Let's see. Maybe. I don't know. I think it's just gonna wiggle out. I think I might need 2 hands, but it is moving considerably. It doesn't seem to be coming out, so I'm gonna put the camera down, get some force on it, and see if I can pop that out with 2 hands. If not, I'll let you know not. Okay, upon further investigation, there's some hardware in there. This thing has a little pop rivet. You just pull that back, and you can see there's some screws hiding in there that are going into the ends of these guys on both sides. So that screw right there that's barely peeking out, I got to figure out how to get this apart to take that out because it is threaded into the end of these. I imagine that if I get this off, it'll expose that screw right there. Sadly, it seems like this might have to come off, which is just labor intensive. It's almost as if you're going to do both of these, you want to do this one first because it's more involved of a tear down. But I'm going to start trying to wiggle wrenches into places to get things off. First, I'm going to try to put a wrench up in there, just a box wrench, like the closed end, and see if I can get it off. If I can't, I'll take all this apart, but you know I'm lazy, so I make things more difficult on myself. Let's see. So I removed the center carrier. As far as I can tell, that is required to get all of this out of the way so that I can start taking all that apart. Yeah, not ideal, but if I am wrong, I'll let you know. But so far, it seems like there's no way to get this thing out without getting this completely taken apart. So I'm doing that. If I end up figuring out how to get at it and realize I don't have to do that, I'll do a little correction. But so far, that's what it looks like. All right, so it's actually quite easy. When this is in there, there's 2 6mm Allens here. This one I already removed when I removed my like center carrier, but this one I just got in there with an Allen wrench, and as soon as you loosen that, whole thing comes apart. So I'll match the same exact thing on the other side, just remove that bottom 6mm there. I ended up just getting a standard little L Allen in there. I put the long half in and just turned it with a crescent wrench right there, just because I couldn't get the traction I wanted on it, I suppose, and I couldn't find a long enough 6mm like socket one. So that worked, just putting the long part of the L in there, then twisting it with a little crescent one time. As soon as I broke it loose, it spun out by hand. So yeah, do the same thing on the other side. The whole thing is apart. I did not completely remove this cover because, again, I am a lazy trash person, but it doesn't seem like you need to. If you just release the top, you have enough wiggle room to kind of work around in there. So that's what I'm going to do. Now the other side, and then we proceed. Okay, so that is the black plastic and silver bracket all attached to the new rail. As always with these Japanese and Thai companies, there were 0 instructions, but there were 2 of these screws included, so I figured I would go ahead and throw one in here. It seems like a good place to have flush hardware, so I threw it in there. I'm going to do the same on the other side, try to get them all situated. My plan is to situate one whole half and then push the other half into it. That seems like as good a plan as any, so we'll see if that works. But so far I'm just kind of guessing which hardware goes where and replacing all of the stock hardware with the stuff included, because all the holes and whatnot are different sizes. So yeah, keep on going with that. I'm going to try to get one side all buttoned up and then I'll check back in. I have them just mocked up right there, and then I put one piece of the stock hardware back into the bottom just to kind of support it. So both sides have one screw in the bottom holding it up. And when I did that, I realized that the other connecting points weren't lining up to anything, and that's because they are for the skid plate. This includes new mounting points for the skid plate, so no problems there. You don't have to get an aftermarket one unless you want to. I may still do it because like a few minutes ago when I thought I was forced to, I was kind of excited about the idea of finding a big, beefy, like gnarly one, so I may still find a new part for that, but I no longer have to, so there's no rush, which is cool. If you're not interested in upgrading it, you don't have to. So a little correction, you don't actually need this bracket. You're just gonna use the spacer that they provide and put the flat screw in there. These two mounting points are plenty. You don't actually need this thing to connect the whole rigmarole. So yeah, I did all that so you don't have to. You do not need that bracket. I've got the 12 millimeter in the bottom holding it up. I've got this tightened down through the very first one there. I've got my, I believe it was a 6 millimeter Allen in there buried, and now I'm trying to get the Moto Skill top carrier back on. Lining all this up is a little bit of a nightmare, just getting it all in. So pro tip, what you're gonna wanna do is put the spacer in for your, if you have the same setup as me at least, you're gonna wanna put your spacers in and when you put the Moto Skill on. So spacer in, Moto Skill on, just kind of leave them there, kind of sitting, and then you're gonna wanna lift this up, put the spacer under there, and then put that screw in just loose. If you put that screw in first, this doesn't have enough wiggle room to get those super long spacers in. So spacer first, then this end. As always, when you're installing parts, never tighten everything all the way up. That way you still have some wiggle room to kind of adjust things. Like right now, this screw will thread in, but the other one will not. So it's gonna take a little bit of wiggling. I'm gonna get this one to where it seats a little bit, then go over to the other side, try to get it to seat a little bit, and then tick-tock back and forth until they're completely snug. After that, I'm gonna go through and tighten every single bolt that I've kind of left loose, like the bottom 12s there on both sides, get this all snugged up, and then it'll be time to reinstall the skid plate. Since there are these factory tabs there, I'll be able to put that skid plate right on, I believe, which is good. Looking at it, I know I said I wasn't gonna change the exhaust, and I'm still technically not going to change the exhaust, but since I'm going to run that factory skid plate most likely, I don't know, I keep going back and forth. If I run the factory skid plate, I'm going to at least want to get it powder coated. If that's the case, I'm also going to powder coat this heat guard here. It's got a bunch of scratches in it, which I don't really care about, but it'd be cool just to black this out too. I envision a red bike with my decals, black everywhere, and then I'm gonna run something pretty special for the wheels. I almost said it, I'm not willing to say it yet, it's gonna be a surprise, but the wheels are gonna be crazy. The wheels are gonna be crazy. So yeah, right now, get all this buttoned up. In the future, try to black out this and maybe that. If there's a good beefy, that's probably what I'm gonna do as the deciding factor on whether or not I switch to skid plate. If there's a big beefy one that's nice, not crazy expensive, and black, I'm gonna buy it. As far as the Moto Skill parts go, that is that. We are rigid on all of them. Everything is good to go. I just gotta put the skid plate back on. I'm pretty sure all the included hardware for this thing is actually just for the skid plate, because they included a bunch of hardware that I have yet to use. So yeah, get the skid plate on there, get this little black cover back in place, though it serves no real purpose now. I'm gonna put it back in as good as I can, and yeah, then we're done. This thing is going pretty smoothly. In just a second, skid plate will be on and we'll take our final look.
What is up, you guys? It is a new day. Yesterday it started storming really bad and it got dark here in the carport. The footage was just gonna be too dark and I couldn't really see what I was doing. There's a bus going by. That's really great for my audio. So the bike is done. At least this phase of the bike is done. I got coffee. Shout out to coffee, my biggest supporter. This phase of the bike is done. I got the crash bar on. I got my center carrier is back installed, and just basically everything is buttoned up the way it was before with the new part. So mission accomplished. Just some takeaways if you want to do this install. The bottom nuts on the skid plate are 12 millimeter. The upper Allen wrenches on where you're going to install the crash bar on the top, those are 6 millimeter Allens. You can run the factory skid plate with the new crash bars, but if yours are anything like mine, the holes aren't going to line up perfectly. So I just used some like little metal snips and just widened up the holes a little bit so I can slot the bolts over, or slot the bolts over, and they tighten down fine. Everything buttons up perfectly. It didn't take much cutting, just a tiny little snip here and there. All the hardware bolts up perfectly. If you're running the top carrier like I am, you're going to want to install the front of the carrier before you do the bottom, just so that the spacers can fit in. The spacers go in, the carrier goes over, put those top ones in the loose, and then put the bottom one in. You need the bottom one in there before you tighten everything down, because the bottom one adds a little bit of lift to it. But yeah, let's show you it. It looks good. This is my extra fuel. I need to bolt back down, but that's what I'm talking about. That adds a little bit of boost, so you're going to want that before you button everything up. Put those in first though. The little covers over them now, but put those in first though, just to stabilize everything. Stock skid plate is on there. Everything is rigid and on. It looks really good. I dig it. I got these in flat black and this in gloss black in hindsight, which isn't the greatest match, but that's kind of going on all over the bike. The mirrors are matte black while the bar is gloss. The passenger pegs are gloss. Kickstarter and stuff are matte. So black is black is black is black. I'm not going to sweat that too much. This is not a show bike. This is the thing I'm going to beat to hell. So you can see there's like mud still on it. So it doesn't really need to be like all color matched or anything. I just want it to work. Those little push tabs that I couldn't remember the name of before that hold all this together, those suck. I've broken a lot of those in my day and will probably continue to break those. They just never work as well as I think people intend, but they save money and that keeps bikes like this cheap. So that's fine. But the whole build is going really, really nicely. Got the passenger accommodations, got the rear rack extender, which isn't great, but it works. Center carrier, crash bars, hand guards, ADV mirrors. Got my windscreen with all of the national park stickers on it from the parks this bike has been to or will go to. Actually, all these parks I have been to, not necessarily all of these parks involved this bike. Some of them were the Harley, some of them were the Versus, some of them were in cars, but yeah, those are that. Headlight guard here to make sure I don't break that glass. A couple places I visited there. I don't really know what else is going on. I think that might be it. There's not a whole lot going on this bike. Oh, there's a charger, cell phone holder there. And then I have a gap here where I'm going to run designated GPS. It might also go there because I found one that can go vertically. But yeah, the bike is muddy. The bike is well loved, but it's looking good, moving along. I'm happy with it. Next part is probably going to be the wheels. I'm getting to the point where a lot is done. I can no longer avoid the wheels. I'm going to go with tubeless wheels, tubeless spoked wheels. There's a really cool surprise about those. I'm excited to show you them, but I need to get those ordered. Then rear suspension probably, and then a couple little things on the rear end I want to tidy up. But yeah, the bike is getting done. If you have any questions about it or any of these parts, anything at all about this bike or any of the bikes, leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and all of these videos, hit thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, please hit subscribe. The subscriber count going up motivates me to keep making videos on this bike, keep bringing you these little tutorials and helpful hints, and keeps me out adventuring on these bikes. I don't make a ton of money on YouTube, but the little money that I do make allows me to keep getting stuff for these bikes, so that's really sick. This has like a pretty good dent in it there. It's seen some action. But yeah, I will see you guys on the next one. I love each and every one of you. Peace.